Well, we just came from Notre Dame Stadium where we met with Pete Bevacqua, Notre Dame's athletic director, for our first media event with him since he took over in the spring. He's been around for quite a while. I'm Tim Priester with John Brice and Drew Mentock from Irish Illustrated. John Brice also from the FootballScoop, and this is Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis sponsored by RVMH Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana. Well, a wide range of topics discussed today with Pete Bevacqua. Let's start with, of course, the big news. Two big areas of news for Notre Dame this weekend. The playoff game on Friday, and, of course, the extension of Marcus Freeman. His contract now rolls through the 2030 season. Is that correct? Hopefully he's going to be around for a long time, JB.
Yeah, he was midway through his 6-year deal. He got a new 3 years tacked onto that. It's now a 6-year deal. He's going to jump into that $9 to $10 million range with the lifetime expectancy of the deal worth in the neighborhood of $60 million pending bonuses. We got to talk to Pete Bevacqua about that. Found it very interesting that Pete reiterated, really hammered home more than any other point, that Marcus never made negotiations about himself, that every time there was conversation, it was, okay, we're doing this for our assistant coaches. Are we committed to continuing to do this? And unofficially, Notre Dame is in the top 5, top 10 of assistant coaches' salary pool right now. When you consider that Mike Denbrock and Al Golden each make considerably more than $2 million, over 2.1 to 2.3 range for those two. Lauren Lando is over $1 million at the strength position. There aren't many programs in the college landscape that have their two coordinators and their strength coach making 7 figures, and within that, Al Golden and Mike Denbrock obviously over $2 million, and Pete Bevacqua making clear to Marcus Freeman, we're committed, we're competitive now, we don't have to catch up, we will stay competitive, if not, in some cases, being a market setter.
Drew, I think he referenced 3 times about how it was not about, the negotiation was never about Marcus Freeman, it was always about his assistant coaches and you know that, and also the reference to how authentic and special that he has been, which Notre Dame fans clearly understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really noteworthy just how, as you said, how Marcus Freeman, I mean, I'm sure he left a lot of his personal negotiations to his agent, probably could clarify that, but when it came to his personal conversations, he wasn't there to pound on the table for himself. He was making sure, more than anything, it sounds like that his coaches can remain competitive with what they're getting, which he feels, Pete Bevacqua said he felt Notre Dame was already, as John said, in the upper echelon of what assistant coaches get paid.
John, you asked about an Ohio State stipulation. He didn't address it until the very end. Why don't you share? He had a lot to say before that, and then he finally did address it at the end.
Yeah, first 2 questions about the House settlement and Notre Dame's plans there, and then more importantly, what most of our viewers want to hear about, at least right now, is whether or not there was any special language or carve-outs as it pertained to potential NFL jobs or the Ohio State University. There are no special carve-outs nor language regarding either of those factors. That just means that if something came up and Marcus Freeman, for whatever reason, departed Notre Dame on his terms, he would be obligated to pay the full buyout amount. I don't know what that is, but I am working to find that out.
Drew, also, of course, a lot of talk about this weekend, Friday, a special event. And as Pete Bevacqua pointed out, it's difficult in Notre Dame football history to come up with firsts. And yet here it is, 2024, the first ever playoff game. And there's a lot of excitement, right? There already is a lot of excitement around Notre Dame and the stadium. And, you know, Bevacqua was asked about, whether they were prepared for events like this because it's different. They have had hockey games in Notre Dame Stadium, and he spoke confidently that they were prepared for anything that comes at them with this Friday night.
Yeah, I think he said, I'm ready to do everything but declare victory, which we'll have to wait for how things actually go on Friday, but he seems very well prepared. He also clarified a few of the differences compared to a normal home game. I believe we've already discussed a little bit how Indiana will get to play their entrance video. There will also be some CFP specific advertisements on the field and some videos related to that. But other than that, it should be a normal Notre Dame home game environment that fans can get around. They also passed out some towels to us that we got to see.
That would be right there.
All fans will receive those on Friday night either as they enter the stadium or they will be on their seats. I'm not sure that they specified which, but those will be provided free to all fans. And Pete Bevacqua highlighting that as part of what he wants to be the home field advantage. And he stressed this is a home game for Notre Dame. They do expect and are urging home field advantage. Yes, there are some initial things that will make it a little more like the typical NCAA basketball game, or even when we saw Link Jarrett guide the team to get to host some NCAA regional baseball games. There are some of those elements at the beginning, like IU getting to play its hype video. But once the game starts, this is Notre Dame's home game, and Pete Bevacqua wants people to fully embrace it as Notre Dame's home game.
He also clarified with, I feel like some people are worried about a red wave, or so to speak. He said they've been monitoring the secondary market, and from his perspective, they feel like most of those tickets are going to Notre Dame fans in the South Bend community.
3,500 tickets going to Indiana. One difference is 1,500 of those tickets will be in the lower bowl, which for a normal home game, opponents don't have that luxury. He was asked about, the atmosphere there. He compared it to, he was still a young pup in '93 when Florida State came to town, and it was number 1 against number 2, but he said he expected that kind of matchup as well. Guys, what else I do want to add this. He started out by talking about his main goal and his responsibility. And in typical Pete Bevacqua comment from him, which I've talked to him over the past year many times, he talked about maintaining the student-athlete experience, which, when it comes to football, everybody wants to hear about all the money they're going to spend on transfer portal guys and freshmen coming in. But he is a committed Notre Dame guy, and as much as he admits to being a Notre Dame fan of everything that goes on, the student-athlete experience is still first and foremost.
Yeah, and he referenced the land program, which we wrote about this fall after we were invited into the box to visit with Lou Holtz, and Peter Trimatera graciously hosted us up there. We noted the strength of the land program, and Pete Bevacqua publicly saying today, we want to lean into that. We love the Life After Notre Dame program. That's what the acronym for LAND. And again, that's something that this university is stressing. I found it very interesting. We've known he meets with a number of football recruits, and he'll bring them into his office, and he'll bring their families in there. We heard him voluntarily talk about hosting a recent top-level women's basketball prospect on campus, one of the top high school players in the country, and his decision to her, or his conversation with her, talking about how I'm admittedly biased, but there are very few places where you can go and get the academics and the athletics, and I just happen to believe we're the best of both worlds. I found that very significant. Moving on in some of his other topics, I thought it was interesting. You asked him about the ACC. I'll let you discuss that element in just a moment. He said he does believe private equity is coming in college athletics, specifically to college football. He absolutely emphatically said private equity will not be coming to Notre Dame football.
The phrase used to be 4 for 40. Now it's 4 forever, and he emphasized that. And the student athlete, or the high school recruit that you mentioned, he said, or the biggest differentiation between Notre Dame and the schools that are recruiting you, or the balance between athletics and academics, and that remains as strong as ever. As it pertains to ACC, that was the last question of the day asked, because he had made a comment about, he felt like a lot of the transition in the conferences across the country have settled down. I asked him about the future of the ACC. He spoke very confidently about that, but certainly did emphasize that Florida State and Clemson need to be in the ACC for the ACC to remain strong.
Yeah, he really emphasized the fact that ACC remaining strong is really important to Notre Dame and what they do, and they feel like they have a strong partner. I believe the commissioner is Jim Phillips. He says
former Notre Dame assistant athletic director. Yes,
he said expressed an immense amount of confidence in him and what he's bringing to the table and the direction he's taking the conference.
Well, and real quickly on that end, Florida State officials sort of in some recent weeks, and including within the last 10 days, there have been stories emanating from the Florida State camp that, we never really wanted to leave. We just sort of talked about leaving. Well, they filed paperwork to try and leave. Now it does look more and more likely that Florida State is going to stay with the ACC, at least for now, because they can't afford to break away from the ACC, and they don't have a defined home anywhere else. I don't think the Big Ten, from everything I've been told, has any interest whatsoever in Florida State. Now the Big 12 has its own large footprint in Florida with UCF added to the mix, and certainly the SEC. While I never think Greg Sankey isn't entertaining who else he could plunder, I don't think he views Florida State as one of those to plunder.
That's it from Pete Bevacqua's press conference just outside of Notre Dame here today. This has been Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis, brought to you by RVMH Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana.